I welcome you to the Top 10 channel. Subscribe to the channel, put a like, and we start the next top. 10 times inmates got prison guards pregnant and vice versa. Prison guards should not have sex with convicts, according to common sense. However, it appears that not everyone agrees with common sense. Some guards have no reservations about having sex with inmates and vice versa. There have even been pregnancies. Female guards appear to be more likely than male prisoners to become pregnant as a result of intercourse with them, according to the accounts given below. 4 prison guards were all pregnant at the same time thanks to one productive convict. To say the least, the stories are intriguing. Tavon White and 4 guards. In 2015, authorities at Baltimore City Detention Center busted a drug and gun running business operated by several members of the Black Guerrilla family who were incarcerated at the prison. The gang was led by Tavon White, who was also discovered to have gotten 4 prison guards pregnant. Several prison guards, including the 4 women, were involved with the group and often helped them smuggle contraband into the facility. The drug trade is very lucrative in prison, where $10 worth of marijuana goes for $50. Tyshinia Brooks, one of the female guards, did it for the money. Katara Stevenson and Jennifer Owens, 2 others, did it out of love. Owens had White's name tattooed on her neck and was the only one to have twins with her. Both Brooks and Stevenson were given Mercedes-Benzes by White. Tiffany Linder, shown above, the last guard, once informed White of a planned jail search. White would subsequently say that she was aware of the search because she was having an affair with one of his security guards. The 4 ladies were charged with being members of the gang and were put on trial. In exchange for reduced prison term, White testified against other gang members. Kelly Ann McDade. Nelson Delgado, a prisoner at Aylesbury Young Offenders Institution in Buckinghamshire, where Kelly Ann McDade worked as a prison guard, got her pregnant. Soon after they started having sex in 2008, McDade became pregnant. She never revealed to her coworkers that he was the father. Instead, she claimed that she became pregnant while on an overseas date. She was forced to quit, though, because CCTV footage revealed her opening Delgado's cell when she wasn't meant to. Prison officials had no idea what she was up to, and they would never have known if McDade hadn't sold the tale to a magazine. She was quickly apprehended. It was later revealed that McDade tried smuggling 3 phones into the prison in March 2009. She received a 30-month sentence, 18 months for smuggling and 12 months for misconduct in public office. The 2 had been planning to get married after Delgado left prison. Unidentified corrections officer. Before being sent to Lowell Correctional Institution in March 2013 on theft charges, Floridian Kimberly Hockaday had been in and out of prison. She was pregnant when she arrived at the prison and gave birth to a boy in September of that year. She continued to serve her term after giving custody to her fiancé. By the time she was freed in February 2014, she was pregnant again, and she gave birth to a second child 7 months later. The pregnancy generated a stir because Hockaday had gotten pregnant while incarcerated. As the father, she named a prison guard. He wooed her with cigarettes, she alleged, a few months after she gave birth to her first kid. A DNA test, however, revealed that the guard was not the father. Hockaday later claimed that she'd had sex with 3 guards, including the one she suspected of being the father, while in prison. She only named that guard because she thought the baby looked like him. However, Hockaday refused to name the 2 other guards. She was back in prison at the time and feared she could be returned to Lowell. She gave the second baby up for adoption. Tyshinia Love Brewster. Tyshinia Love Brewster worked as a prison guard at the Downstate Correctional Facility in Fishkill, New York, until she became pregnant with an unidentified convict. Despite the fact that the event occurred in February 2013, investigators believed they had been having sex since 2010. At the time of her arrest, Brewster was 6 months pregnant. Brewster was the one who took the brunt of the misfortune. She was accused with rape and misbehavior in addition to being pregnant. Because inmates cannot legally consent to sex, she was charged with rape. Meanwhile, the inmate was transferred to a different facility. Nancy Gonzalez. Nancy Gonzalez, a 30-year-old prison guard, was sentenced to 366 days in jail in 2014 after having sex with an inmate at the Lower Manhattan prison where she worked. As a result, she'd gotten pregnant. Ronell Wilson, who was on death row for the murders of 2 police detectives, was the inmate. Gonzalez was found guilty of not just having sex with Wilson, but also of leaving other convicts unattended during the romps and permitting Wilson to beat another inmate. Wilson could have stolen her cell phone keys because of the sex. Gonzalez claimed she consented to have a child for Wilson in the hopes that having a child would persuade the jury to reconsider imposing a second death sentence on him during his retrial. That didn't work, and Wilson was sentenced to death once more in 2013. During his first trial in 2003, he was sentenced to death for the first time. Gonzalez gave birth to the child in 2013, and Robert Capoferri Jr., a fellow prisoner with whom she had become acquainted after leaving Wilson, offered to look after the child. Capoferri was held at the same prison where Gonzalez worked, and Wilson was a prisoner, until he was transferred to another facility after federal officials suspected him of being in a relationship with Gonzalez. However, Capoferri and Gonzalez remained in contact with their cell phones, which had been tapped. This allowed federal agents confirm her relationship with Capoferri. They also discovered her earlier relationship with Wilson after they heard her tell Capoferri she would not continue said relationship. Capoferri never got to care for the baby because Gonzalez lost custody of the child soon after he was born. Alison Sharples. While this episode did not result in pregnancy, it could have if everything had gone according to plan. Alison Sharples worked at Home Prison Garth in Lancashire until she was detained in October 2014 while attempting to flee the prison yard with a sperm syringe. She intended to take the syringe home and use it to impregnate herself. The sperm belongs to one of the twin brothers Marvin and Michael Berkeley, according to a DNA test. In 2007, both were sentenced to prison for a variety of offenses, including hijacking and kidnapping. Marvin, on the other hand, was the main suspect because he was the only one detained at the institution. His brother was detained somewhere else. Police searched Sharples's home, where they found a letter written by Marvin. Sharples confessed she wanted to get pregnant by Marvin because she wanted a chocolate baby. She got a 9-month sentence. Elisha R. Smith. Elisha R. Smith was a prison officer at Indiana's Pendleton Correctional Facility when she became pregnant by an inmate. Dontel Keyes, the prisoner, had been serving a 20-year term for reckless homicide, criminal confinement, and kidnapping since 1998. Even though Smith was still working at the jail when she gave birth on June 15, 2016, prison officials were unaware of the couple's clandestine relationship. She was released from prison 4 months later, in October 2016, and transferred to Marion County Community Corrections. She and Keyes, on the other hand, stayed in touch until April 2017. Caleb Shane Hopkins. An inmate at Tennessee's Moore County Jail became pregnant after having sex with a prison officer sometime in 2017. Jessica Fowler was the inmate, and the guard was Caleb Shane Hopkins. Fowler was sentenced to prison in September after violating her probation for aggravated statutory rape, which she received in February 2016. Fowler found out she was expecting in May of 2017. She sued Hopkins for $5 million, saying that the sex was not consensual. Hopkins, she claimed, used to meet her late at night in the jail library and buy her silence with smokes and prescription medicines. He allegedly advised her to be silent and stated that no one would believe her anyway. Fowler's lawyer, Ben Rabin, claimed that because she was a lesbian, she could not have consented to the sex. At first, Fowler and Hopkins had non-penetrative intercourse until Hopkins told her to bend over. "Married men don't buy condoms," he said when she requested him to use one. They had intercourse 4 times before she became pregnant, she admitted. Fowler was transferred to another prison. She lost the jail credits she'd earned at Moore County Jail, which could have seen her leave prison early. In fact, she had been billed for an early release before she was transferred. She had the baby at the new prison. Hopkins was arrested. Tarra Avery. It was reported in January 2018 that an anonymous inmate at Florida's Hamilton Correctional Institution had gotten a prison guard pregnant. Tarra Avery, the prison guard, was accused with sexual misconduct and smuggling contraband into the facility. Avery admitted to having sex in a bathroom with a prisoner. Authorities were finally made aware of the illicit relationship in November 2017, when other detainees informed them that Avery was pregnant with a fellow inmate. Officials investigated the inmate's cell and discovered letters written by Avery. In addition, he had jotted down her phone number in an address book. Prison officials also went through the inmate's call records and discovered he had told his sister about the pregnancy. To remove all doubts that it was another guard he got pregnant, he had mentioned Avery's name. Besides having sex with an inmate, Avery also confessed to receiving $200 from the prisoner's sister. She also gave his sister $100 to pay his phone bills. Unnamed prison guard. Believe it or not, as of 2016, it wasn't illegal for prison guards to have sex with inmates in Western Australia. While such sexual relationships will sometimes cause scandals when they're exposed, the guard involved will only be forced to resign. If the guard refuses, the Corrective Services Commissioner could dismiss them, citing a loss of confidence. Other than that, it's all good. When a male corrections officer at Bandiup Women's Prison in West Swan got a prisoner pregnant in 2016, it generated a scandal. While the officer remained anonymous, the inmate was identified as Gemma Sofiadakis, who was serving a 4-year sentence for drug-related offenses. Other jail guards at the facility, meanwhile, joked about the incident, dubbing it the Immaculate Conception. As a result of the controversy, there have been more calls to make guard-inmate sex illegal. Subscribe to the channel and like it. There are still many interesting stories ahead.